3.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Oh, snizzity snap. Here we are. One of the baddest dudes on the whole planet Earth happens to be my father, Rod Gibson. How you doing?
Scared?
He's a little scared. First time on camera like this, I guess. But reason why I wanted to do this little talk with just you and I, really just to let everybody know kind of where I come from and what it was like being me growing up in the Gibson household, all the different fun and things that we did in our past. And
all fun.
It was all fun. It was all fun. There's no bad stuff at all. But it's funny like that, right? Because as a kid, you feel like when you're being disciplined or, you don't get the candy that you want or whatever it is, you think, oh, well, it's because my parents are mean. Oh, because they don't want me to have any fun. But
we were the meanest.
Yeah, the meanest. But now, guess who's the meanest? Who's taken over the title of meanest parent in the world?
Go, man.
It's definitely me. But I used to think, as a kid, of course, I think every kid thinks that if you don't let me do everything I want, if I don't get to have everything I want and eat whatever I want, then you just don't want me to have fun. And that's, as a parent, you realize that's definitely not the case, right? I mean, that's it's part of being a parent. You got to make people grow up to the best human beings possible. So, but
it's not fun being mean.
No, it's definitely not. I think if you can look, I always feel like as long as you know and truly believe that you have your children's best interest in mind, and whatever facet that falls in, then you're okay. Like, I'm okay if my kids think I'm the meanest, or they think I'm not being nice, or even other parents for that matter. I know what my intentions are. I know that I believe this is the best path possible, and I'm assuming that's, you guys have told me many times that's how you guys felt too, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Want the best for you.
Yeah.
Still do.
I know. I feel it.
I'm not very mean anymore, I don't think.
No, you guys are so different. I tell Cameron and I tell Garrison, those are not the two people I grew up with, But you have you had a very interesting childhood growing up yourself, and I think all we know is what we had growing up, and you were one of 5 kids.
Yep, I was fortunate. I had good parents. I had parents that taught me good things about discipline and stuff.
Yeah, but they were strict.
They were mean.
Right? I'm sure you thought they were the meanest, right, in the whole world. Yeah, I think that as a kid though, there's a difference between being mean and obviously being disciplined, right?
And feeling loved.
That's the I don't want to call it like the deal breaker, but that's the part where if it's really just being mean, or, hey, I'm looking out for your best interest, and unfortunately for you, it means you're in trouble, right? Yeah.
I always felt loved.
Yeah. Well, I did too. Even more than me, because I had friends. Well, first of all, let's start like this. I always thought all kids, their households were like ours for the longest time, until you go over and visit, and you watch how they interact with their parents, and you think, oh, this is way different. But a lot of the difference I think that I felt was they didn't feel that same amount of love. And I'm not saying that they weren't loved, but the kind of love that I felt and that we had in our household, I think was very different than what I think most kids, at least the ones that I interacted with and saw, what they felt, because they would always come over our house, right?
Yep, we had the candy house,
but
cookies house. Everybody wanted to come to our house.
Yeah, but we had the love. Like, we had the most rules of all my friends.
But that's what your mom wanted. She wanted your friends to come over.
Yeah. But we had, even though I think if we look, because like some of my friends, their friends let them do whatever they want. They could stay out as late as they want. They could eat, and they could, even in high school, hey, you want some beer? Fine, whatever. And not that I'm condoning that, but there were a lot more leniency at their house. And even though our house, a lot of those things weren't allowed, they still enjoyed coming over. And I think because they did feel there's a warmth here. There's I like this feeling. I like seeing how you guys are to each other, and that your parents care.
Your mom created that.
Yeah, definitely. But I've talked to you many times about kind of your story and how you got through life and got to where you are. I mean, we're in this big, beautiful home here. A lot of it through the teamwork of you and Mom, but your ability to overcome, I think, surpasses a lot of people. And a lot of what I like to talk about on this podcast is motivation, right? How to overcome obstacles, how to get through the hard stuff. And you've done that for a majority of your life and into your career.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, from playing basketball on the high school team, and we're getting yourself into college and getting through. I mean, you went to the Air Force Academy. I mean, that couldn't have been easy. Last
one accepted in my class.
Yeah. What did they tell you?
They said, if anyone's likely to flunk out of this school, it's going to be you.
Ugh. That's got to be a strange feeling. I've never heard that. I've never heard that in my life. I've always been pretty lifted up in my life. And what's that even like when you hear that? Does that drive you more, or does it beat you down a little bit, or?
Yeah, I get it's definitely I don't thrive on negative motivation, but there's times when gauntlets are laid down, and they were always laid down for me. I told you I was always the smallest kid in my class.
Yeah.
Need to gain 15 pounds to make weight to get into the Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
Was told on National Merit Scholarship test you can probably go to college, but it's probably a waste of time. Those kind of things kind of threw gauntlets for me, and saying, that no, I'm going to prove you wrong. And so I felt I had to gain my recognition by working harder than everyone. And so I figured out earlier that if I worked harder than everyone around me, I could keep up and even get ahead.
Yeah, that's an incredible mindset. I think a lot of people don't always feel that way. And you guys, both of you guys, have taught me hard work work ethic is number one. And I've even talked about it on this podcast many times. There's nothing inherently special about me besides what my mom, you, and my wife think. But
you got good looks.
Well, thank you.
Me, I never got ahead of good looks or brains.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've done very well, I guess, there. But hard work was always paramount in our household. If nothing else, you got to work hard. You can outwork, like to your point, you can outwork people even if they're more talented than you, even if they have a natural advantage over you, whether it be physical, mental. Some people are, naturally smarter than other people, but your ability to really dive in and
well, it's not just education too. I mean, it's afterwards in life, whether it's a job or whatever. You can outwork people.
Yeah. That was always my thing. I mean, I was on a very different path than you in my career, where I went to college for a year, didn't do very well, didn't find out that maybe it wasn't for me, and I just started working as a security guard and didn't know where I was going to end up, and went through a few different jobs and found a good niche at Home Depot and worked my way up, and that's where I really found if I work really hard, I can outwork my peers, I can get promotions, and I can actually make a good living. And then from there onto other companies and keep that work ethic going and work my way up. And that's something I learned from you guys, because I really believe I know myself, I have a natural lazy streak in me. And if that would have been cultivated in some way, or even just, hey, let Eric do whatever he wants, I could have definitely fallen short. So I do credit you guys quite a bit to my friends or anybody who knows my story about how I'm able to outwork everybody. So,
well, I think society today doesn't value competition like it used to.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a believer in competition.
Sure.
I mean, if it wasn't for competition, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah, because you had a lot of it with being so part of that your story too. So you go on to the Air Force Academy, go into the Air Force, and become a pilot.
Yeah, and it was, again, get early promotions, get assignments that I wanted that were considered very, very good, lucrative assignments by basically, again, and not outworking people physically, but just figuring things out, figuring out how to get to where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm. How to get ahead. And
I don't want to say get ahead of people, but to get what I wanted. Mm-hmm. It was important to me and my navigator to win the best bombing crew mm-hmm. in the Air Force in the FB-111, and we figured out a plan to do that, mm-hmm. and volunteered for the missions to do that. That we said, hey, nobody wants to fly this mission, but we'll do it because mm-hmm. our bosses will think more of us, and it's not brown nosing or anything like that. It's just this is working hard. Likewise, you don't try to be a pain in your superior side. You mm-hmm. try to get along, but you don't have to brown nose people.
Sure. Well, that's always kind of been your plan of action. It seems to be where you have you make a plan, you stick to that plan.
And sometimes I'm too rigid in my plans. I'm not flexible enough, and that's where my great wife, your mother, allows me to see that.
Yeah, but it's I feel like in a lot of things, because people who and myself kind of included in this, if I don't make a plan, if I get too wishy-washy about, I'll kind of figure it out, things don't come to fruition necessarily that way. Or if they do, the path is so much longer because mm-hmm. I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
So there's kind of give and takes in both approaches to life, and I don't know if that's just something that's ingrained in you naturally. Is just
well, I always have to remind myself. In the Air Force, we had a phrase. It's called "Flexibility is the key to air power," uh-huh. and that's true in life too.
Yeah.
You got to be flexible, but to deviate from a plan, you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just a deviator.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think it's important for people too, because I know a lot of people, and there seems to be a lot of just go with the flow and take life as it comes, which sometimes can be fun. Right, if you allow yourself the kind of openness to see, hey, whatever, let's just go where the wind takes us, and we'll have a good time. And if for vacations, sure. For maybe your early 20s and things, sure, maybe, right. But at some point, that can become a detriment, where it's
absolutely. And to my detriment, I probably take planning a little bit over the edge.
Over the edge. Yeah.
Your mom still reminds me of when I would tell you kids no, it's not time for a potty break yet on the plan.
On the trips? Yeah. There's definitely some of that.
No, it's another hour and a half before breakfast is scheduled.
Right.
As we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to head out and get an early start.
Yeah, because we're driving cross country.
But
yeah,
your mom kept us all in line.
She definitely did that. I mean, we're very, very. All of us are very blessed to, have someone keep us wrangled in and make sure that we don't go off the rails too much.
Too much.
Too much. Yeah. So sometimes we get a little out of hand. But I think that's kind of most people anyway. I mean, I'm so fascinated with overall life in general, but there's no. I'll put it like this. I think I've talked about it even before. I've said it before on the podcast. Is I like the part in Tombstone at the end where he's meeting with Doc Holliday and he's on his deathbed and he says, I just want a normal life. And he says, well, there is no normal life. There's just life. And that always kind of stuck with me because I feel like a lot of people get this mindset and get stuck in this mindset. I have to have a normal life or this kind of life where it's regimented or it's so free flowing that take wherever the wind blows you kind of a thing. Without any kind of thought process, like you had a plan for, hey, how are we going to get ahead? How are we going to get to where we want to be? And you have to be very mindful of those things. And for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me in life, I have an idea of where I want to be. And I know I have to take certain steps to get there, but there's always going to be life coming at you. And so I have to be mindful that, hey, all of this is just life. It's not unfair life. It's not, I'm being picked on, life, or it's not unlucky all the time. It's all just life. And we all have our ups and downs and lucky times, if you want to call it that, and unlucky times, whether it's just sometimes things just happen. And I think both of you guys have been really good about rolling with what life has always thrown at you. And
well, and as you know, in our walk, our relationship with the Lord has been very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think it's very, very important that you have a belief system, mm-hmm. and ours is in Christianity, and that Jesus Christ can get us through a lot of things.
Yeah.
Now that might not be right for everyone, but it certainly has been a big part of our lives, and as you know, of one of your life.
Yeah, no, I've seen, it's done wonders in my life, and, mm-hmm. and with me and my wife, obviously, being on that same path, and I've seen it do amazing things in your life, and Mom, and the friends that it's brought you in your life, and people, the community, mm-hmm. through the church, and that's been absolutely fantastic. And I think, like you said, a lot of people need a belief system and something that they can kind of have as their scaffolding for how to be a good human being and how to live the best life possible. And that's definitely one that I know many people, through Christianity and through their own church, have found many blessings, and it's that's definitely a good thing. And
life's much more about material things. It's about relationships with your family, with other people.
Yeah.
And that you can truly say that it was a positive thing that I existed on this planet, and not a negative thing that I did to the planet. That I had a positive influence.
Right. I never thought about it that way. Of all
I told you that, but yeah.
No, I've never thought about it that way. I think that's a good thing, because I think a lot of people probably are indifferent. They mm-hmm. just existed instead of having a positive effect.
Saying, no, it was a good thing that he was here. The time that he was here, how short or long it was.
Yeah.
That things turned out a little bit better for the people in the world around him because mm-hmm. He was here.
Yeah. No, and I agree 100%. It's easy to get lost in.
I'm sorry I didn't teach you that earlier.
But you did now. That's all that matters. You never stop learning. So kind of along your path, so you become a pilot. You get to do all the different, move up and do all the things you wanted to do in the Air Force.
A lot of fun. Complained all 27 years.
A lot of fun. And then had a second career. Mm-hmm. In the financial advisor world.
Yeah, being a retirement planner.
Yep.
Number one job was to figure out my own retirement.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, look, I've been in sales all my career in some way, shape, or form, whether it's retail sales, business to business sales, and business to consumer sales, what I do now. And I've never done door to door. And
it works.
Yeah. I mean, even when you told me, I think when Mom first told me that you're going door to door to try to get business, I'm thinking, ooh. I'm like, I don't know, sales isn't Dad's strong suit. Like he's not a natural what do you consider a typical salesperson? But for you, it worked. That's really what worked.
Everything works. You just have to work harder than everybody else.
Right. But even too, right? Because most people, when they think of a door-to-door salesman, they're selling vacuums, they're selling, subscriptions to a magazine or something like that. And sometimes it's a young kid. I
was selling me.
Yeah, right.
I was selling me. I says, hey, let me have a chance to work with you, and I'll help you get where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
I'll be worth the expenditures that you pay to help you get where you're wanting to go.
Right. Now, that's if they let you talk.
Yeah, and
how many people even wanted to hear what you had to say?
Very few answered the door.
Right. But you knew. Mm-hmm. You knew out of
how many somebody would talk to you.
Yeah. So then it was just a numbers game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that equates to an effort game. Yeah. The more you work, the more you're successful.
Right. See, that's the part I think where it trips up a lot of people, especially because I know my kind, salespeople, that's the part that would trip them up. They want the sale all the time.
And they don't want the rejection.
They don't want the rejection. And they want it with the least amount of work. Mm-hmm. right? I know a lot of really, really good outside salespeople that if they can put forth the minimal effort to make $100,000 a year, then that's what they'll do. If you tell them if you put forth 25% more and you'll make 150, they're like, I'm all set. So for you, that's where you really got to shine is knowing that just work harder, I'll get more. And it paid off.
Yes, and actually it's, I don't know how to describe this, but it's a lot of fun when you succeed and you set milestones and when you get them and go over them. And if you're not achieving those milestones, I don't know, maybe I'm making it too simple, but I just find, hey, if I can work harder, I'll get there and not give up.
Yeah.
I was blessed with a partner that believed the same way I did, amazingly, and it was a very rewarding time of my life, doing it only for around 12 or 13 years before I said, can retire.
Yeah.
Can now do other things like out travel all our friends.
Yeah, exactly. Outwork all your friends and travel.
Now we're going to out fun them.
Yep. Hey, there you go. See? But I think what you just said, that you might be making it too simple and that if I just work harder, that's the part where I feel like so many people, including myself at certain points in my life, have fallen short. That if I just work harder, things will work out. And I feel like sometimes people get to a point where it gets hard or they're getting more rejections than yeses in whatever field or whatever thing that they're doing. I'm not getting the promotions. People are getting promoted ahead of me.
It's not fair.
Right, it's not fair. And guess what? Life isn't fair many times. But I was guilty of this too, where I didn't get promoted ahead of somebody. I felt like I was outworking, and I was being told in my store, you're the number one guy. Everybody wants you in their department. You're outworking everybody. You show up early. You stay late. You come in on your days off. You do everything. And I'm thinking, I'm a shoo-in. I'm a shoo-in for promotion. I'm a shoo-in for employee of the month where you get a bonus. And I'm already counting, spending my money and everything, right? The store meeting comes, and I don't get it. They give it to somebody who's been there for a month and a half and who, was just a likable person. And she was very likable, but she was very likable. And I felt like that's why she got it. And I'm like, you know what? This is unfair. I'm going to show them. If that's what they think of me, then that's all I'm going to give them. Well, you know who it affected? Didn't affect the store. Yeah. It affected me. Yeah. And everybody started seeing it. They said, what happened to Eric? How come he's not the same guy? Does something happen? And I actually came clean to my manager and said, well, this is what happened. This is how I felt. So this is what I gave you. And luckily for me, I've had some very, very good mentors in my career. He said, Eric, I know that's how it feels, and you may even be right. And he said, but I'm telling you, if you stay on this path, you're never going to get ahead. But if you keep working hard, I promise you, it will eventually turn and you will get those promotions. You will hit those accolades. And it did. And luckily...
Well, you brought up a very, very good point, because I attribute a lot of my success to the supervisors and people that I had above me, especially in the Air Force. I firmly believe to get ahead in the Air Force, you had to have good bosses who were highly, highly respected. You could be the best officer around, but if you had a lousy boss who wasn't well respected, okay, you could never get ahead. So, I mean, a lot of that you can't control.
Sure.
So, I don't have the answers to that. I've just been blessed.
Yeah. Well, but you still worked hard. You didn't let it deter how you were going to perform. And one thing, what was I going to say? It was something that Mom had always taught us about that. So to that point, like you said, there's certain things you can't control. You can only control how you perform, how hard you work, and showing up and doing the best you can. And something that Mom would always tell us is to don't worry about the things you can't control. Worry about what she would call your circle of control. Things outside of that you have no control over. Hey, those chips are going to fall where they fall anyway. But you can control your attitude. You can control your performance. You can control how hard you work. You can control if you're going to be likable or not, or you're going to go around with a scowl on your face, for the whole world to see. And those things always stuck with me too, where I was like, okay, if I can't control this is what I can control, and I'm still going to outperform. And at the very least, even if I didn't get the promotion, which eventually it came, but even if I didn't get it, at least I know I gave my best effort. I never would have to second guess myself at some point and say, well, you know what, Eric, if you would have worked harder, maybe it would have turned for you. I didn't have to worry about that. And it did always turn, So that's a good point, that things are out of your control. So.
Well, it's so cool to have you as my son.
And
that you've turned out so great. Maybe I had a little bit to do with it.
both you and Mom had a lot to do with it. I've had to look at myself many, many, many times in different parts of my life, and I wasn't always happy with what I was seeing. But the one thing I always knew, and we just talked about this yesterday, I always knew that even when things were bad, when it felt like the whole world was crashing down on me, and granted, from decisions that I made, I mean, it wasn't just unlucky. I made some bad decisions in my life, and I've been very honest about that. But even when it felt the whole world was crashing in on me, I never ever felt despair, meaning it wasn't going to turn at some point. I always knew and believed that it would. And that has a lot to do with you guys, how I was raised, because of I know you guys were always praying for me, and that things were going to come around, my way a little bit, or an opportunity would open, and then it was up to me to step through and to take it. But also because of the love that I've always had, and I always felt like no matter what, my family loves me. They're there for me in any way possible. I have an amazing with my wife and my kids, that they're always going to love me no matter what. And for that, I was always able to be, even in a negative mindset sometimes, to still have a positive outlook on life. Mm-hmm. And I'm so, on one hand, I feel very, very blessed for that. But on the other hand, I feel so sometimes even saddened for people who don't have that, who do have that feeling of despair, and they don't know if it's ever going to turn for them. In fact, they believe it's probably never going to turn for them. And I hope sometimes this podcast can reach some of those people to know that it can turn. And even if you work really, 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 really hard and life is still kind of beating you down a little bit, that if you still stay positive and you still give forth all the effort, that it can turn. Even if people, with your experience, will tell you it's a waste of time, kid. You can try it, but it's probably not going to work out for you. And maybe that's the gauntlet that gets thrown down for them that propels them. Because I enjoy sharing your story that way.
Well, likewise, I believe we have a responsibility, like especially me and your mom at this stage in our life, to look at people that have gotten a bad deck of cards. Mm-hmm. Like, we're working for CASA now, Court Appointed Special Advocates, mm-hmm. and foster kids that really are struggling because of no fault of their own in the situation they've been put in. Mm-hmm. And part of being a good human being is when we have the opportunity to be able to try to help people like that.
Yeah, there's some amazing stories you guys have shared with me about two boys that you guys help. Mm-hmm.
And we're working with them.
Yeah, you're working with, and even though sometimes it may even feel like is what we're doing helping, you still get up and make the effort every day and believe that. Yeah,
just enough effort.
Just enough effort. Yeah, yeah.
Keep on.
And that's I think even with the struggles that we've had, I know myself and the challenges you had through life, and Mom obviously had her challenges, and everybody has challenges in life. We don't know what that kind of life, that kind of challenges, what those feels like, where everything's just it's
bad.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, and I've tried to wrap my head around it just to even get an idea, and I can't, just to not even have just the base foundation of love and acceptance, right, from the people that are supposed to love and accept mm-hmm. you the most, your family, your parents, and it's got to be that's a whole different level of challenges that I'm glad that there's people like you and Mom that are out there doing that kind of work, and you have the time to give, you have the other resources to do things and to make sure that
there's lots of people out there that are doing it.
Yeah.
And there just needs to be more.
I agree. Yeah, you guys are all better. You guys are better than me. So
you'll have your opportunities.
I'm not there yet. I'm working on it.
You'll have your opportunities.
Yeah. No, I believe so. And I'm glad, the way you even put it, to be a good human being. I feel like, and we talked about this as well, just sitting around the dinner table there's a lot of things going on in our culture nowadays of us versus them and pointing fingers, and a lot of us need to be more focused on just being better human beings to each other. Because look, we're all here together on this earth. We might as well try to make the best of it, and it doesn't mean we can't have rules and guidelines, and we obviously don't want to let people take advantage of us, but at the same time, we probably all could give a little bit more, whether it's our time, maybe just our ears, and listen to people. And I'm guilty of that too, where someone's like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And I'm like, oh man, you know what? I don't have time right now. I'll get back with you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I know I can do a better job of saying, you know what? I'm going to make time for them because it's important. It's important as being a good human being.
It's life.
Yeah, it's all life. So, but now you're retired, and you're busier than ever.
I'm busy.
That's so cool. But that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, because it does my heart so much good to know that even though we live 6 hours away on a drive, that we live in Las Vegas, and I can't just come and visit you guys every weekend or any time, that you guys have a group of friends that are basically secondary family. Mm-hmm. I mean, how awesome is that?
We've been blessed, and I don't know how to describe how it's happened. It's a lot because your mom is so out there and likable and lovable, and we have a very, very busy life because we choose that.
Yeah.
And the calendar is full as it's ever been.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're going to a lot of places. We got a lot more places to go. Next trip is Israel in February, at least the next big trip. There'll be a bunch of little trips. And,
yeah.
You don't know when this time on this earth will end, but you don't want to use every day of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, I'm 42 years old, but I still say it. When I grow up, I want to be my parents. Because you guys figured out what I like to call you beat the game, right? You did all the stuff you had to do. Now you get to do the stuff that you want to do. And you guys say as you say you have a busy schedule. I want everybody to know they're busy doing awesome, fun stuff. You're traveling, playing golf, and seeing the world, and doing it all with